gonna have a go at editing an image ready to use for a screen. Firstly, if I go into the applications, what I tend to do is use Adobe Bridge to view my images, to decide which one I'm going to use. I've got a few versions here. Okay, and I've actually on my desktop, I've got some images here. So as you can see, if you have the film strip selected, you can see each image quite big and decide which one you want to use. There are different elements to this, like essentials, etc. Just gives you information about your image, when it was taken, quality, what you used, etc. Okay, so I want this one. So I'm going to open it with, I did a right click then, I'm going to open it with Photoshop. If I double click on that, my default is that Photoshop, so it will open. Now you can use Photopea for this as well, it's very, very similar. I think it does exactly the same thing really. Just make this big. So there's our image. Now what I'm going to do, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to do this just to show you the difference before and after. I'm going to drag the layer down to the plus square shape, and I've got a background copy. So I'm going to work on the top copy and leave the background alone so you can see the difference. First thing I want to do is turn this into a black and white image. There's lots and lots of different ways to do this. You have got an actual black and white section. You might want to go through that. There's so much choice though, I find I can never decide. But lots of different types of black and whites, as you can see. Alright, I'm not going to use that. I tend not to use it. Again, I find it a bit complicated and I can never make my mind up. But it doesn't mean that you don't, it doesn't mean that you can't use it. I use image adjustments and I go down to the gradient map. Now, yours might not end up looking like this because sometimes you might have something else set. It might be on purple and blue or something different. If you go into the basics, just pick black and white, okay, and say okay. And now I've converted that to black and white. But to have an image for a screen, it just needs to be pure blacks, pure whites, and not really have any greys in between. So I really need to get rid of all these skies. So let's have a look. What can I do? Again, there are a few different ways to do this, but I'm going to show you a way that usually works. It's helped for this photograph because I shot into the sun, which gave me quite a strong silhouette in the first place. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and Levels. There is a shortcut command there, look. On your keyboards you can get it by using the Command and L. And then you get Levels. This is quite good for eliminating the midtones. This side are all the black pixels, or dark pixels, if you're in colour. This side is all the light pixels, and these are all the midtones. So if I drag the darks to be darker and the lights to be lighter, you can see that I'm getting rid of the greys. So the closer you bring those together, your blacks will be blacker and your whites will be whiter. Okay, so now I've got a really strong silhouette I can use for my screen. Just say okay to that. Sometimes it might be too dark in some places and you might not want that. If you come across here to the Dodge and Burn tool, you can probably do this before you convert it to black and white, but let's see if it'll work here now. With the Dodge tool selected, I'm selecting the highlights and I'm going to turn it up quite high. Is it going to brighten up or bring back some detail? Well, it actually is a little bit here. So it's bringing in those little dots. So that's what the Dodge tool does, it lightens areas. Burn tool darkens areas. Let's darken the shadows. Let's see if I can darken this section here. Will it bring it back? Doesn't look like it will. Okay, so it makes sort of, let's try mid-tone, see if that works. Oops. Okay, so it looks like that's working a little bit, making areas a bit darker. Also down here I had a bit of lens flare. I don't want that to be there, so I'm just going to get a brush and paint it in. Get rid. Alright, so we've got before and after. So nice strong black. Another thing to show you while you're working, the Navigator Tool is quite handy. If it doesn't appear here, all you need to do is go into your window and go down and just make sure it's on. Okay, and then you'll be able to zoom in and look at different areas while you work. My dog's just arrived to sit under my chair. Hello, dog. Okay, so I've got to save it now. Now I want to save it as a flat image. If I save it as a Photoshop file, it'll keep the other background image. I don't need that. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. I'm going to save it on my computer. I'll save it in the same place. And what I'm going to do, I'll give it a different number. And I don't want it to be a Photoshop file. Excuse me. Ooh. If I save it as a copy, it'll give me the option then to change it to a JPEG. I don't need the word copy there. Okay, and I'm going to save it. Always save on the highest quality. You can always reduce it later if you need to. Okay, so if I close that down now, I'm not going to save that because I've already got it. Let me minimise that. There we are. So I've got my image there. That was the one that was before. That was the one after, ready for screen print. Okay, hope that helps.